And good morning, all. Welcome to the Falcons Podcast. I am Scott Kennedy, your host. I will be joined by Nick Kendell in the very near future. He is in Seattle, brewing some coffee up, so it's bright and early for him, 6 a.m., and we are glad that you are able to join us today. Already got some folks coming in the chat, and we are going to talk about several things. First off, it's a Thursday night game, so we're going to preview the Carolina Panthers Atlanta Falcons game. I feel like we've got a decent preview of this already, considering the two played just 10 days ago. Wasn't that long ago. If you're a Falcons fan, you're happy about the dub, but you'd like it to be a little bit more of a clean game than the last time. And frankly, 37-34, that's about double what the Panthers average in points per game. So I don't expect it to be quite that type of game again, though the Falcons should have some success on offense. We'll get to all that. Want to talk a little bit about ESPN has their rookie rankings coming up. Where did Drake London fall on the list? And talk a little bit of the injuries too. The Carolina Panthers look relatively healthy, and the Falcons look like they're still going to have one big miss coming into this game. So want to say good morning to some folks. First off, it looks like the first person I want to say good morning to this morning is Nick Kendell. Nick, welcome in, my friend. How are you doing this morning?
The heat should go off in a second. There it is. Boom, just like that. I'm doing well. I feel like I'm dark for some reason.
I felt like I was dark too. So I don't know if it was because I put on I usually won't wear a white shirt. So I was like, I wonder if the white shirt is changing the white balance, but that shouldn't affect your screen. It should only affect mine. So I don't know. I go to different channels on StreamYard, and they behave differently, and it shouldn't. So I don't know. We'll figure it all out.
But I'm doing well. Happy to be here. Happy to talk some Falcons. Man, I gotta say, you guys, the Falcons fans in here, this show and this Falcons offense has given me a little bit of life this year because it's been one of my favorite things to watch in the NFL this year, regardless. And the fact that get to ride along with you guys on that is fun, especially given the other teams that I really pull for have just historically inept, not historically inept, I guess Iowa's did, but really bad offenses. So to watch what the Falcons are doing here, especially given their limitations on the personnel without the expectations this season, everything is just, a bonus, has been a lot of fun. And we're halfway through the season, but really excited to see what happens next. And now we got the Carolina Panthers. I mean, should be right back in.
The we is all of us together that will be enjoying this game. I say that all the time when I'm talking about other teams. It's we. It's us. It's us as a group. We have this. I get it for sure.
100%. So excited for tomorrow's game against the Panthers. Obviously not a very talented team, but it's a divisional game. So really excited. Did I say Sunday? They play Thursday Night Football. It's going to be Thursday
night. The Falcons and Panthers are on tomorrow night on Amazon Prime. That one is for sure. And we will be back Friday morning. At least me. I said I'm going to do it. Nick will probably join me.
I'll be back.
We'll be back Friday morning at 9 a.m. Eastern for the aftermath, the gut reaction for that one. So Thursday night. As you're coming in, make sure you hit that like button and that share button. I'm also going to drop in. Give me a retweet on that for the show, if you don't mind. If you're on Twitter, just let people come in. Let me throw that in there quick. We'll say good morning to some folks in the chat. Michael Ranquillo, one of the first ones in this morning. Another one out west says good morning, Scott and Nick on Forging the Falcons. Nick, I've just started calling it the Falcons Podcast. That's easy enough. I've got falconspodcast.com. And then what we can do is we can brand different shows as we go. So I'm just calling it the Falcons Podcast. It's easy to remember. It's easy to find. Jerry Bowie, what's up, everyone? Looking for this big win on prime time. Yes, sir. And he's in there, putting in the work already this morning. He's listening while in the gym on these weights. Get it, dude. Maybe we can inspire you a little bit. I have to listen to like thrash metal. So when I'm working out and doing that stuff, the talk radio, depending on what I listen to, will probably just make me mad. Kevin Fitzpatrick, good morning, Scott. Good morning, Kevin. Welcome in on Facebook. Another Kevin. Kevins are easy today. Our Golden Eagle coming in. Says good morning, guys, on Facebook. Joe Cannon, always with us. Good morning, fellas. Chris Walker coming in as well. So good morning. Dave coming in on YouTube says good morning, guys. Good morning, Dave. So we've got, it's strange. It feels like we're in a 3-team round robin here with the Panthers, Bengals, and Falcons. And right now, the Bengals are up 2-0. The Falcons are 1-1, and the Panthers are 0-2. We've seen the Bengals pretty much due to both teams treated them pretty similarly. Just ran right through them.
Yep.
What was interesting, though, is, you read the headlines, Nick, and I don't know how much you saw of the game with the Bengals.
I saw it because I was going against Joe Mixon in fantasy. God bless America.
Well, and that's the thing. The headlines are Joe Mixon this, Joe Mixon that, which is like, oh, okay. Well, the Falcons, we know the Falcons can run, but the Bengals really came out throwing the ball. Mm-hmm. So on the first series, Joe Burrow was 5 of 5 for 70 yards. Then they ran it in once they got in the red zone. We know the Falcons can run the ball, but to open the game, Joe Burrow came out slinging it. And then once they got a quick lead, then they just ran right all over them. But can the Falcons replicate that type of success where they kind of pass to set up the run, or do they even have to?
I think that this Panthers team is not at a point where you need to do anything beyond what you've been good at so far this season. So if I know the Bengals came out and were throwing the ball around, but they have Joe Burrow. They have T. Higgins. They have Tyler Boyd. You guys have some pass catchers. They're still young, but the drop back pass game is, I guess we'll call it as it is, probably bottom 8 in the NFL right now, bottom 10. And that's with all the massive benefits and positive situations that you put yourself in by having such a dominant run game. So I think you got to be true to yourself. You're not going to come out there and beat the Panthers as bad as the Bengals did, but you have a very good run game. You have Cordell Patterson this time when you didn't last time. And also I think the Falcons probably feel a little bit upset about how that last game went. I know they won. They probably should have lost. They are the obviously better team. So I think
they should have won, and they should have won it going away, which is why they're upset. It's like, we won it, we lost it, we won it, we lost it, we won it. I think Arthur Smith used to quote something along those lines, saying it felt like we were 3-2 in that game.
Yeah. Yep. So that's I think you probably are going to be a little bit irritated by that and feel a little bit, we should have taken care of business better than we did. Let's get it right this time. And obviously the far better coach. So I think Steve Wilkes has done an okay job out there in Carolina, kind of holding down the fort as much as he can. But yeah, no, this is a big game. Get the Falcons back to 500. There's probably Panthers are one of the 3 worst teams in football right now, probably. With the Colts, maybe the other one, and the Texans as another AFC South, man. But it's a big game, and I expect the Falcons to come out and be who they are and execute the run game like they have been.
Look at our man Chris Walker coming in with the stars on Facebook. Thank you, Chris. Appreciate you coming in and supporting the show. And just a reminder, a way you can show support for this show and keep us going, keep the lights on, keep my forehead nice and shiny is with Facebook on stars. And then YouTube is Super Chat. So thank you very much, Chris, for kicking us off that way. Always been with us for a year. So since we got started, one of the originals. Dave comes in, another one of the originals, says, guys, I have noticed that Ebiketie is usually a half a second late for a sack. Could he be helped by tighter coverage? Not necessarily man coverage. I think the common denominator is the soft zones.
Soft zones, definitely part of it, but that's also the NFL. Sacks have dropped. I think we have less sacks in today's NFL than we've ever had before because of the quick pass game and all teams are doing to try to limit the negative plays. It's all about explosives and limiting the negatives, right? So I wouldn't be too upset about him not finishing the plays. If it's a trend, 3 years down the road or 4 years, we can talk about it when it's contract time. But I think sacks are very fickle and they are very volatile year to year. Pressures, quarterback hurries are not. So I'd be keeping an eye on those stats. And if the pressures are there, the sacks should come. That's the general rule of thumb. Now, there are some exceptions. Some players are kind of a little tight in the base. They can't make that final move. Somebody like Jadeveon Clowney comes to mind. Crazy amount of pressures, not finishing in the backfield. But for the most part, I think I wouldn't read too much into it. That said, soft zones, not really having great stuff in the back end, not having another, alpha pass rusher out there. All these things contribute to players not finishing and creating sacks.
And again, part of that's by design from the quarterback. The quarterback's going to hang in the pocket as long as he can. He sees it coming. I know I'm going to take a hit and I'm going to let it loose. If he was a half a second earlier, the ball probably would have come out half a second faster. Yeah. So, there's something to be that too. But yes, absolutely. Better coverage will mean more sacks, without a doubt. So as you get better in the secondary, you've lost your 2 starting cornerbacks. Safety was a bit of a question mark anyway. Your nickelback is getting better, is getting healthier and playing better and better, but not 100% Isaiah Oliver. That the coverage on the back end isn't as good as it should be. We get that. So they work hand in hand. More pressures leads to better pass defense. I say it a zillion times. The best cornerback in the world, the best pass defense in the world is a quarterback on his ass.
Yeah.
So the tighter coverage will help the up front, and frankly, up front will mean you don't have to be quite as good in the back. I can erase a blown coverage by sacking the quarterback. Mm-hmm. I can't necessarily, it doesn't quite work the same way, but if I've got tighter coverage, I am giving my pass rushers more of a chance, for sure. So good question, Dave.
And in the science world, we call that a positive feedback loop.
Yeah.
So you just feed into one, feeds into the other, feeds back into the first one, then round and round we go.
They work synergy. They work they work in synergy on there. Joe Cannon comes in on Facebook. He says, I feel Kyle Pitts gives Carolina fits this time around with Cordero Patterson and Algier running. Don't forget Huntley. I love Huntley runs mean. I love the way these guys run. They all run angry. Every single one of them. Either Pitts or London will be open and should have good games. Watching Joe Mixon run wild, I saw a lot of, and Joe Mixon's been doing it longer, but I felt like there was a similar running style to Cordero Patterson in some of the things they do well. Hit the hole hard, or a seam or the edge hard, one cut, pin your ears back and go. And the success that Mixon had. Now, Nick, could this game be a little bit different because it is a divisional game? And, there is some rivalry there. I mean, they're 3 hours apart. It's the closest team to the Atlanta Falcons and Carolina Panthers. But the Panthers, they look like they've mailed it in. Stopping the run is yes, you have to have the right personnel. The Panthers do have the right personnel. So then it comes down to, attitude and want to.
And right focus.
Now, they don't want to, Nick. They don't want to.
Yeah, a lot of run defense and defense in general and football is concentration, right? Or there's just the amount of mental energy you're putting in rep to rep, which is exhausting. I mean, that's the reason football players will say it's a 60-minute game, but it feels like you're out there for 5 hours because every single rep is so intense. You have to be dialed in. So definitely will be a big game here. And talking about Pitts or London, be open, should have good games. I do think that the Panthers have, on paper, personnel that matches up pretty well with taking out a tight end because they have probably one of the better coverage linebackers in football in Shaq Thompson. And they have a linebacker safety hybrid who is massive and a good athlete in Jeremy Chin. 2 athletes that on paper should be good matchups for Kyle Pitts to take him out. You could double him, you could bracket him, but those 2 together can do some stuff. Regardless, though, Kyle Pitts should still get his if he had a better drop back pass game. And also, I know that he was taken before Patrick Surtain. Just want to give a shout out to the Panthers for taking J.C. Horn instead of Patrick Surtain. Horn's been fine, but he hasn't been Patrick Surtain. So the 8th and the 9th pick in the 2021 draft. But yeah, these guys should be able to get theirs. But again, I think it's a team where I think the Panthers are so incompetent, specifically on the offensive side of the ball. And you have a ace card, I guess, with how your run game has been playing this season. You don't have to overthink it. Just lean into the run game. It should be enough.
The old KISS philosophy, keep it simple, stupid. There will be some play action. The play action should open up. And if you're running at them, again, talking about that synergy, if the running game is working, you'll have more time in the passing game because you'll have play action linebackers and everybody is half a step less to pin their ears back and go. They're going to be wary of the run, even in passing situations. If I can get 8 yards on 3rd and 7, I might not be quite as aggressive. So it all works together. A little bit about Shaq Thompson. You mentioned, one of the better pass coverage linebackers. Shaq was a running back safety as a junior in high school. And then he played quarterback as a senior in high school. One of the best two-way players I've ever seen. He came out of near Sacramento in California. Just a phenomenal football player. I actually put some high school video of him up saying, "Hey, Shaq Thompson for quarterback," just to remind people, I had it. So I threw it up there. Phenomenal player. I actually pushed for him when we were projecting him to the college level. It was kind of a time when there were some big safeties going around at the time. I was like, he can play safety.
Yeah.
And some of the guys I worked with, said outside linebacker, and it ended up being right, moving to linebacker because he was. But there was Sean Taylor was around that time. I think Ed Reed. Some of the bigger safeties. That's who this guy is. So you're dead on. He was a very similar player like that. Roderick Cook. Hello, all. This is a serious game. We must win this one. I agree. You got to beat the Panthers. You can't fall 2 games below 500. And 2, if you want to keep believing in what you're doing and really make a playoff run, are we going to be taken seriously? I think you are. We're 9 games into the season, y'all. This is we're beyond okay. We're into the meat of the schedule where you are, which is a 500 team, which is going to put you in contention for the playoffs. Need to win this one if you're going to keep continuing on that path towards a possible playoff run. Absolutely, Roderick.
Yep. Got to get back to 500. No doubt about that. And this is a bad team. So hopefully it'll improve there. You guys can get back on the right track. It's got to sting. Poor Graham. I feel bad for him. It was just such a horrible play. That's one that's going to be on anti-highlight loops for years. Justin Herbert's not that scary coming at you. I promise you. I know he's a big guy, but
I don't think he was. There wasn't even anybody coming at him.
Justin Herbert was to the side of him.
He was being chased from the behind, from the side, and just let it go. He wasn't showboating or anything, or even just lack of experience carrying a football.
I guess so, man. He's probably carrying a football with him all week. Next time, I hope he gets another chance to pick one up because he's going to be hugging that thing like a turkey on Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
We got Kevin coming in.
And he's been so good this year. Again, he's got plenty of time, and it's this season where, the expectations are low. This wasn't a Thanksgiving game or a playoff game where, something like that happens, Leon Lett, where, that's what he ends up being remembered for. That's not going to happen with Taquan. Taquan's been really, really good. And Kevin says, I just can't take the Panthers seriously with those Division III helmets. Where are we at now? They've been in the league about 30 years already, I guess. Somewhere in that, because I feel like it was mid-90s when June Jones was the head coach, and I'm in my mid-20s. And I'm thinking, if they don't fire June Jones, I'm a Panthers fan right now. I was like, I can't take it anymore. But the Jaguars came in at the same time, and they had the exact same uniforms. I'm with you on this, Kevin. I've said forever. And then the Patriots changed to the swoosh. I've gone on this.
I hate the swoosh.
I've gone on this forever. Everybody has the same damn logo. It's just different color schemes. It looks like USFL to me, or Arena Football League. I'm with you, man. I can't stand it. Everybody got the same logo. This little swoosh back. Ugh. God bless the Eagles. Anybody who's stuck with it, the Packers, the Steelers, the Browns, the Bengals for being, different. The Chargers have stuck with it. I like the Broncos old D. I don't like the new one. So I'm with you on this one, Kevin. Let's show some originality here. Not everybody doing the same.
Yeah. Yep, I agree with you there. The logos in the 70s and the 80s were way better. Also, on the note on the helmets, though, I do think the Panthers are unveiling, because this is the first year where you're going to have different helmets, whatever. So the Panthers are using an all-black helmet.
Okay, are they? That's what I was going to ask. That was the other part I was going to ask. Are the Panthers using an alternative helmet in this one?
Yes.
I don't like the regular ones. I like the colors. I don't mind the color scheme. They got some Carolina blue in there. They're in Charlotte, not too far from Chapel Hill, Raleigh, Durham area. But I don't like the regular helmets, Kevin.
Yep. Chris Walker coming in saying, tough loss. Do we need to see Ritter on Thursday night? Not yet. You're still very much in the thick of things. The offense is functioning. There's no doubt that Mariota is extremely limited in the drop back pass game. He probably left points on the board. I think this is, what do they call it? The apocalypse clock or something, where it clicks, it's 5 minutes to midnight. Mariota's clock is now at, I'd say, 1 minute closer to midnight. after this last game, in my opinion, just because there was so much left on the field. In my opinion, he struggled in the drop back pass game and wasn't good enough. I think if you had even just a slightly better pass game in that last one against Chargers, you win. You left points on the board. So got to be better there. You're still very much in the thick of things in the playoffs, though. So you probably ride that until you're out of the playoffs and you're questioning what's going on at the quarterback position with Ritter and what it means for 2023.
Let me see. I was going to bring up Mariota had a quote, what can they do? They're asking him, what can they do to improve the passing game? And he starts off with, talking about converting on third down, but then he gets into.
Well, I think it just comes down to.
I'll start to there.
You guys can do it, and we'll just go out there and make plays. No, I think it comes down to me. I just got to give those guys a chance, right? Guys are finding ways to get open, and sometimes it's not necessarily the perfect throw. I think coming back in this season, I've tried to kind of flush that perfectionist in me. That's probably my last hurdle is, I think some of those deep shots, I've always been the kind of guy that wants that guy to just catch it on the run. But with the guys that we have, the players that we have, sometimes it's giving those guys just a chance to go up and get it. And I'm working on those things. Those are things that we go out there and practice. So hopefully that will transcend onto the field.
Yeah, I wanted to do a T-shirt, and I almost did a bunch of years ago when Larry Fitzgerald was in his prime. Horseshoes, hand grenades, and Larry Fitzgerald. When close is good enough, and because that's all you have to do with some of these guys. Just get it near him. You don't have to be perfect. I don't have to hit him in stride. I don't have to be perfect on this. Just get it close to him. Not yet. The turnovers, he had a really good game. We mentioned the week before, Nick, that I don't want to see 12 of 15 anymore. I'd rather see like 17 for 25. And against the Panthers, he was 20 of 28 with 3 touchdowns. Now, he also had 2 interceptions, So, and then last week against the Chargers, he was ineffective. Here is a question for you, Nick, that I have had, and I just don't remember much. For me, I see Jonathan Abram. I think Jonathan Abraham, the pass rusher, first-round draft pick of the New York Jets, acquired and was spectacular. One of the last true pass rushers the Falcons have had, and Jonathan Abraham. So should we take a look at Jonathan Abram, who was just waived, former first-round pick safety from Vegas? I feel like he'd bring much-needed depth to the position that we need. Thanks for the question, Joe.
Yeah, thank you, Joe. We appreciate it. So we also got, Jonathan Abram. No. We talked about it, at least I talk about it a lot, with especially the spine of the defense with the linebackers and safeties. You don't have to have great athletes or great hitters. I mean, obviously, they're still great athletes because they're the NFL, but they don't have to be like these freaks, tier 1 in the NFL. What matters at that spot, in my opinion, is consistency and instincts and reading the field and not being a detriment to the overall system. And Jonathan Abram out there was constantly a detriment to the Raiders' back seven because he was out of position. And he would leave huge, vulnerable swaths of land in that back end that teams would systematically target and take advantage of. So Jonathan Abram, I guess if he was cut, so you'd have to claim him at his salary. I think he might pass through. I wouldn't.
He'd probably go through waivers.
Yeah, so I don't think he's the one. He's a dying breed. He's very much a box safety. Now, he could come in if you're a team that's playing a lot of dime personnel with a dime backer out there that's living in the box. There's a role for Jonathan Abram there, but he's not too deep. In a too high safety world, he's a miscast. He's a misfit. He's better coming down than going back.
If I was playing the Titans or Falcons twice a season, I might like having him out there.
Yeah, he's still I don't know if I'd like him out there at his contract. I think it's still like, $3 million or something, which for a depth piece is not great. Honestly, if you're talking safeties, I know that Jonathan Abram has more of a big name, but I'd be more interested in Terrell Burgess, who was just waived from the Rams, who's much more of a slot safety type versus a linebacker safety type, just to get some more coverage bodies out there in a too high world. But
yeah, the Falcons are bottom 3. I think they're worst again. They were worst last year as far as giving up air yards. They were worse, and they're worst again this year. And I think they were 30th the year before. So they could use some, again, pressure and coverage.
Bodies. Yeah.
Part of that comes with a pass rush. Part of it comes with not having the personnel at corner. It's gotten worse with the injuries. No doubt about that.
Yeah. And also something about Jonathan Abram also real quick. I have a personal vendetta against him. because Iowa played Mississippi State in a bowl game, and both programs visited the Tampa Bay Children's Hospital, and Jonathan Abrams started a physical altercation and like cursing in front of the kids with literally the kids with chronic diseases and whatnot, and just like, come on, dude, like use your freaking head.
Yeah.
On top of all the penalties he gets, the head
place.
hunting. Yeah, I'm not a fan of the dude, so no, hard pass for me.
Yeah, Dominic Jaramillo coming in, said good morning, Nick and Scott and Dog Nation. Go Dogs. Have a great day, my boys. The Dogs have come up to number 1 where they should have been. But like I said, it doesn't really matter as much as it used to. You go 12-1 out of the SEC, you're probably going to be in the playoffs. But yeah, right now would be matched up against TCU, a very convincing win. Big fan of Kirby Smart. Happy for him. I'm a fan of Josh Heupel right now. I like what he does. I like his demeanor. He's not, the Pruitt was such an a-hole. Very easy to root against. Anyway, Heupel's out there, and I love that guy. And I've known Kirby Smart for years and years. Very, very happy for him. James Hyatt coming in. Says good morning, Nick and Scott. Good morning, James. Kevin asked, kind of tongue-in-cheek, can we teach CP84? Can we teach Cordero Patterson to play quarterback? I think him and Younghoe Koo are actually working at corner. So, two best players on the team getting it. No, I'm kidding. I tweeted that out. Can we get Younghoe Koo some reps at cornerback? And he actually was a pretty good, from what I understand, in some of my responses, a pretty good defensive back in high school. But, that's a long way away from the NFL. I was just kidding. Blair Carter coming in on YouTube.
I don't recognize that name.
What?
I don't recognize the name. So.
Yeah, hello, new name. Welcome in, my friend. Says Scott and Nick, what's up, guys? Still believe in this team. They play hard on both sides. Just have to execute down the stretch better. Rise up. And Nick, that's one of the things, watching this team through the years. You still don't feel comfortable with a lead. The personnel's there, and 50 years of Falcons history is there. But when they get down, you feel like you're still going to get a game out of it. So if the team, no matter what happens, if it's 14 points either way in the first half, don't turn it off. The Cincinnati Bengals jumped all over the Falcons. They were all over them. And the Falcons came back and cut it to 1 score in the first half, running the ball. They're going to stick with it and get after it. And I think that is something that should give everybody hope that this team wants to play for Arthur Smith. And okay, now what can you do once you're playing with a full deck? That's usually a making dumb decisions type of remark. But again, I've said it before. You're playing with half a roster, half your salary cap. I've said it before. I've said it a zillion times. There's close to $100 million that's not on the field. You've only got like 205, 210 in total salary cap. So between Matt Ryan, Julio Jones, Deion Jones, injuries and stuff, you're only got about half your money actually in active contracts. That's by far the lowest in the NFL, by far. I think the Broncos may have started to catch up with their injured reserve, but it would take another 10 players or Russell Wilson for that to actually happen. So I am very encouraged by this team, for sure. Let's move down the chat just a little bit. Dave says, I'm serious here, but in his 8th year, you guys surprised Mariota as being treated like a kid at quarterback. Meaning like, is he going to develop? I think he gets treated pretty harshly by fans for sure.
I think he's talking about the play calling.
Okay. Oh no, that doesn't surprise. That doesn't surprise me. If you're limited, you're limited. It doesn't necessarily matter if you're 35 or 19. It's not usually when you talk about limiting for a kid, it's more about, are they ready for this? With Mariota, it's more like, can he do this? Do I want him in 5-step drops and drop him back and slinging the ball? Probably not. So you've got to slim down the playbook, which is okay, which fits Arthur Smith. But Arthur Smith would rather do that than play around the limitations of Matt Ryan, I think.
Yeah, I agree with you here. You're trying to do what you do best and limit the the damage. And right now, Mariota is not good enough in the drop back pass game to be worth spreading and tossing the ball around, because when he does toss the ball that much, he tends to turn it over. So definitely, it's frustrating, but it's also worked so far given the limitations you have on the roster outside. I mean, if you put this team with how this offense is running right now with a top 10 defense, you're talking about a dangerous team come November. But unfortunately, the drop back pass game and in combination with we'll just call it very talent limited defense is hard to win football games. But you do have the offensive line working, run game working, a couple pass catchers, great scheme on the offensive side of the ball, and the arrow pointing in the right direction. So it's frustrating, but this was always going to be a frustrating season if you were expecting, the 20, whatever year Matt Ryan won the MVP for the Falcons. That's a ways off. 2016. Okay.
16. So you're good at finding these stats quickly, Nick. So while I start talking about it, what is the Falcons' red zone efficiency ranked in the NFL? Because one of the more interesting stats for me, when you're looking at, okay, how good is this team and is this sustainable? When you're looking at their team offense, they're 25th in the league in offense. Okay, that's not great.
No.
Yeah, that's not great. However, as soon as I sort it by points scored, they went down a little bit after this last week, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. They're ninth. They're ninth in scoring, but they're 25th in yards. So they're not. Is that a factor of short field? Is it a factor of a lot of 3 and outs, and when they do drive and they start going, they score? What does their red zone conversion look like relative to the rest of the NFL?
Touchdowns per red zone trip. The Falcons are 9th in the NFL, trailing Dallas, Minnesota, Miami, Detroit, Philly, Cincinnati, Kansas City, and Tennessee.
There's a lot of winning teams in those teams that are converting touchdowns, aren't there?
Yes, absolutely. They're also 8th in points per red zone trip, behind Minnesota, to Detroit, Cincinnati, Dallas, Kansas City, Philly.
Besides Detroit. Detroit's the outlier there.
Yeah, but it's because their defense is historically bad. And as far as 3 and outs go, Denver's 2nd. Atlanta looks to be they're only 9th in 3 and outs, so it's not that. Let's see, field line of scrimmage per drive. The Falcons are great radio looking this up, 13th. So really, I think it's more so just the efficiency on the red zone side of things. And I think a lot of that has to do with how good you are running the football.
Right.
And also when the space is condensed, if you have a quarterback who can run, it creates so many more lanes for the run game in general. So that's one reason I'm such a big fan of a quarterback power in the college game, because if you get down to the red zone, I'd love Iowa to have a mobile quarterback, because if you could just, zone read there at the end, that can easily create a later or a better situation for you. So very good in the red zone so far this season for this Atlanta team. Also, once again, a broken record, hit the button, but a credit to Arthur Smith scheming that up. Red zone is very much a schemed thing as well, and getting it done.
So coming in, Keith Robbins coming in, says, I'm late, but good morning. Good morning, Keith. We are certainly glad you are here. This is, I think, would be a fun discussion topic that Dave brought in on this. He says, I like to judge the Falcons' run game on running backs alone. I exclude Mariota because I think he skews the stats. I would disagree on this one, because Mariota is part of the running game, and not like Patrick Mahomes, who will every once in a while keep the ball on an RPO. Or a read option, where they're just showcasing it, and then every once in a while he takes off, or he's scrambling. It's really a pass play, but he scrambles. When Mariota is running, they're designed runs. A lot of times he is, and that's part of the offense. So I would absolutely include him. I judge a running game, Nick, on, and I think there's efficiency metrics on this that have figured it out. I just called it seat of the pants analytics. Is, can you run when you need to run? If it's 1st and 10, how much are you getting on first down? If I'm 3rd and 35 at my own 10-yard line and run a draw play for 25 yards, I don't care. That's garbage. Those are garbage numbers. So, but I think there's
that's
actually
field position that matters. It's field position still.
But
That's
you know what I mean. You
yeah.
know what? That's not running when you need to run. Can you run it on 3rd and 1?
Yeah.
Can you get the first down? Can you run when you need to run it? 2nd and 6, and you want to run the ball? Can you? Can you effectively run the ball? And there are efficiency metrics out there that judge that type of thing. But Dave, Nick, I would absolutely include Mariota in the running game and its effectiveness.
Yeah, it's part of the system. It's kind of like Ryan Tannehill's passing stats without Derrick Henry versus with Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry's impacting the pass game because the looks you get. It's all about dictating matchups. So having Mariota out there, in theory, should help your running game. It's not just the yards, it's the looks you get. I mean, the edge rusher has to play a little bit more disciplined, can't crash inside. The safety has to come down and respect Mariota on the rollout. That gets you more space on that front end. So it's all part of the system and how it works together. So if you want to look at the pure running back yards, that's fine, but that's not really how the game of football is trending even. I mean, you're seeing it in college football, these quarterbacks are becoming more and more weaponized, not just, this drop back pass game, but also the ability to run. And you're seeing it in the NFL as well. I mean, Jalen Hurts, does Jalen Hurts' running ability not one of the main reasons this Eagles offense is what it is right now? It definitely is. And credit to the scheme out there, Nick Sirianni. Justin Fields, part of that, it's the total yards, it's QBR. Lamar Jackson won an MVP off of that. He still struggles with anticipatory throws, but because he's such a dynamic runner, he changes the math out there every single time he's on the field, and he makes it so hard to defend. So obviously Mariota's not any of those guys that I mentioned there, but definitely it's part of the overall system. The numbers matter, and it also amplifies the running back numbers with his rushing ability. Now his drop back passing game struggles hurt them in that regard, but that's why you kind of want the best of both worlds.
I would probably say the closest Mariota is, especially watching him in college stuff, is to Lamar Jackson. The closest fit. I mean, Mariota's a lot faster than he gets credit for. He can fly. I mean, he's not, Lamar's the closest thing to Michael Vick since Michael Vick. So I'm not saying he is, Michael Vick was the fastest guy on the field. Lamar Jackson is like that. Mariota's not the fastest guy on the field, but he is fast.
Yeah.
There's a lot of similarities there. He's almost like Lamar Jackson, very similar type of players where, again, there's the chatter going around of if he doesn't stay a Raven, the Falcons are going to give up the world to get Lamar Jackson down here. Be a pretty good fit. That'd be a pretty good fit for Arthur Smith. Eric coming in. He says, good morning, fellas. Anyone else notice how our easy schedule has teams that are trending up? Some of the W's I thought are looking a little suspect. The Bears game's definitely one of them. I wanted to bring up the schedule because the Panthers aren't trending up. The Saints aren't trending up. The Buccaneers aren't trending up. I'm not sure the Cardinals where are the Cardinals relative to where we thought they'd be. I never liked the Saints. The Commanders are a mess, and the Steelers are worse than I thought they'd be at this point.
Yeah, you have a very easy back end of the schedule.
The schedule looks good, Eric.
The
schedule looks good.
And to be fair, a lot of Bears hype right now because of how good Justin Fields looked, and Bears fans should be excited. Their defense looks horrible. Horrible. I mean, do you know how many times the Dolphins punted on Sunday against the Bears?
Once.
And they only had 2 drives that didn't result in penalties. The other one, a missed field goal. So this Bears defense, they gave up almost 50 to the Cowboys in Dak's return. I mean, this Justin Fields looks like the truth, and you're going to be competing with a lot of free agents with the Bears this offseason because they're in a similar situation where they have ungodly amount of money to spend in the salary cap. So you'll be frustrated with them, but I don't think I would be afraid of them. It should be a fun game, honestly. It should be a game where there's a lot of points scored and a lot of explosive plays on the ground. But I would not be too concerned about the Bears because I cannot tell you how terrible their defense was on Sunday. It was unbelievable to watch.
You mentioned the money. Kevin Mapp says on Facebook, says, how in the world do the Bears have more money than us next year? So on paper right now, the number 1 team in available salary cap in 2023 is the Chicago Bears, and number 2 is the Atlanta Falcons. The Atlanta Falcons have 63 versus 110. The Falcons can get to 100. They absolutely can, but the Bears are already there. Part of it is they're not paying anything for their quarterback because he's cost controlled. And then after that, you start looking at their high for 2023, and it's like, who? Eddie Jackson is their
That's the
number
only one I
one.
can think of. Yep.
And he's got a he's got a cap hit of 18 and a dead cap of 9. So they could clear more room there. Justin Jones at 7.5 with a dead cap of 2.5. Cody Whitehair at guard. Lucas Patrick at guard.
They pay nobody.
Those are cheap guys. Those are really cheap. So how many of these guys are trending up in the right direction for them are draft picks? Justin Fields, we mentioned Justin Fields, but they gave up some draft picks in order to get him. So they're going to need that free agent money. And again, you want to build through the draft, so you can burn through salary cap money in a hurry if you're lacking draft picks. The Falcons are both. The Falcons have a bunch of draft picks and a bunch of money, and it's set up for 2023 to begin this rebuild in earnest. Like I said, this is where I expected this team to be next year at 500 and trending upwards. They're a year ahead of schedule.
Yeah, but that said, things can change quickly in the NFL. It's one of the things that makes it great. I mean, nobody expected the Giants to be where they are, the Seahawks to be where they are, the Jets to be where they are. So Falcons are definitely ahead of schedule, but there's no reason to not expect them to be significantly better next season. And we got Jadisi coming in here with a comma at the end. I'm saying Tyler Algier and
those look like fangs.
Maybe they are.
It's like a vampire emoji. So welcome in. That's still a new name, and it is pretty cool. So Tyler Algier and CP work so well off each other. I'll throw in Huntley too.
Yeah.
I want Cordero Patterson getting maybe 10 touches out of the backfield, maybe 10 as a pure running back.
As a pure running back.
Yeah.
You're not talking about like dump offs or little things.
No, I'm talking about pitches, handoffs, toss sweeps as a pure running back, 10 carries.
Yep.
And then, you feel good about Algier and Huntley coming in because those guys are hammers. They're absolutely hammers.
Yeah, 100%. And they're playing so well that my thoughts and dreams of maybe adding another super dynamic running back to that Falcons backfield maybe misplaced. They've been good enough. Doesn't mean that, let's say that the Falcons are picking, let's just call it a happy world. They're picking 20 and, so day 2, a good running back falls to you there. Maybe it's something you consider, but you got plenty of other areas. You got to take the best players. But yeah, no, they've been great. Running game has been great. I'm excited to see what they can do going forward. I'm hoping that the offensive line continues to be what it is. And that's another thing. You talk about switching the offense around, and I don't know who we were talking to early in the chat about Mariota's limitations. Some of the limitations I also do wonder are still somewhat offensive line based in the drop back pass game, because if you were playing that Tom Brady or Patrick Mahomes dropping back 60 times, the reps and the type of blocks that you're going to have out there are totally different. Mm-hmm. Just as a caveat or an example here, Orlando Brown Jr. for the Ravens looked like a world beater with the Ravens there at right tackle. Looked awesome. Great fit. Not many true vertical drop back pass sets. Goes to the Chiefs. Not even close to the same guy because of the type of offense and the type of reps that he's playing out there. More space. So something always to consider there. It's always, everything feeds into each other. It's why football is the ultimate team game. It's why stats in football, they're awesome, but they're never perfect because every single guy is dependent on every single other guy on the field to do their job, so that way they can maximize and do their job.
Who's doing his job is Rich, coming in all the way from Anchorage, Alaska. Good morning to you. So it's getting to be winter time. We are tilting toward the sun. So you got a lot of daylight. If I'm remembering this, no, other way. You're getting dark. Yeah, that we're tilting away from the sun. Duh. That's why it gets cold, dummy. You're getting dark. So hopefully we can bring a little bit of light for you. But yeah, that's 4 hours time change. So coming in with us at 5:30 in the morning. So welcome, Rich. Appreciate you being here. And Chris mentions, remembering the interview process. One of the reasons Arthur Smith was hired and why he became so successful was his red zone efficiency. And I will go back to saying part of that is being able to run the ball when you have to run the ball. If I'm going to run it, can you stop it? And if you can't, I'm going to be good in the red zone. We went through that last year, y'all. Was why aren't we better in the red zone? And I brought up a play. We'll do it again. I've still saved the play. It was against the 49ers. And, there was a fade. I hate fades. But, on second down, so be it. Then on third down, third and goal from the 6, the 49ers rushed 2 from the edge and dropped their defensive tackles basically to the linebacker spot in zone coverage. And then they've got 7 monitoring the end zone. They got 9 guys in coverage. 9 guys in coverage. Okay. And both ends beat the tackles. So they got pressure like that, rushing 2 men. Who's going to be good in the red zone like that? Nobody is. Nobody's going to score like that. So the improvement on the offensive line, the threat of the run, being able to run when I have to, is definitely one of the reasons why this Atlanta Falcons team is outscoring their yardage. Again, 25th in total yardage, 9th in total offense. And I'm going to go out on a limb here and say, let's see, where are they right now? The Atlanta Falcons are 24.1, which actually ties them for 8th. So they're 8th with the Minnesota Vikings. They're scoring more than 24 against the Panthers. So that number should go up.
Yeah. And Panthers here, just kind of final breakdowns, anything that you want to highlight or touch on before we start to wrap up. I mean, we talked about their defense. Their offense is dreadful. I mean, PJ Walker's been one of the worst quarterbacks in football. I know he had that awesome throw to DJ Moore, but I think this is a game where if you can stop DJ Moore, you win this game easily. It needs to be take DJ Moore out. I don't care if it's double coverage or beating him up at the line of scrimmage. You got to live with that sometimes if you are outmanned. So stop DJ Moore, I think, is number one. After that, I mean, get after PJ Walker and crowd line of scrimmage. He doesn't really, I know he had that big throw, like I said, but his heat maps so far this season have been very close to the line of scrimmage. He does not really trust the anticipatory throws deep. Part of that is the offensive line. Part of that's the weapons, but limited quarterback. This is a game the Falcons should win by, what's the spread right now? 7.5?
Is it that much? I wouldn't think it's that much. Let me look real quick. I had it on. It is -3. So throw in your home advantage for the Panthers, and yeah, you're at 6.5. Yeah. But it is officially -3. Falcons on the road. So they've been favorites twice in 10 games, both against the Panthers.
Yeah. And the other thing I want to ask you is, does it being a Thursday night game change anything for you? Because Thursday night games always got some weird voodoo going on. It's just like the schedule is different.
Weirder than it's been. I mean, it's like everything's turned into the Saints and Falcons. So last year, the Panthers came in and beat up Atlanta in Atlanta. And then the Falcons went to Carolina and beat them pretty handily. The games might have been tight, but it was, they played much better, were dominating. So it was, I don't remember the order of the games. It may have been the Falcons won the first one. I don't remember. But one of them was Halloween, and that was the Calvin Ridley game against the Panthers, where they got beat at home, and then they won in Carolina. If I'm not mistaken, I'm getting old, so forgive me. So the Thursday night game, the Falcons, I don't know. I think this team is still mad enough, still good enough that they're a little embarrassed that they lost the game. They're a little pissed off. And the Panthers, they will be at home. They'll get a boost from their home crowd, but this team's ready to pack it in. I mean, watching the Cincinnati Bengals just run the ball's attitude. Unless you're just completely outmanned, which the Falcons have been at times, the Panthers aren't. The Panthers are not outmanned on defense against the running game. They're kind of just running out the ground ball at this point to get to the end of the season where they can start rebuilding in. This is the evaluation period. Yeah, we call that tanking. But don't call it tanking. The Falcons' run game wins this game, so it wins this game. PJ Walker doesn't turn into Jameis Winston against the Falcons. they slow him down a little bit, and I think the Falcons win this game. One of the things, real quick, Nick, that Michael says, he just hope we don't waste all that cap space on overspending like Jacksonville does. One of the things that I want to see, Michael, is if you've come from nothing, you learned how to be frugal. You learn, and you overspending and waste. You don't. It goes against your core being. The Atlanta Falcons and Terry Fontenot have had to learn to maximize every single dollar. Now, are they going to be the redneck lottery winners that go and waste all their money and are broke in 10 years when the lottery money wears out? Or are they still going to be frugal and walk into a grocery store and say, man, I'm not paying $7 for a bag of Doritos. I don't need Doritos that bad. I'm gonna get something else. So that's me. I can't go grocery shopping, man. $5 for salsa? I don't need salsa.
Doritos are great because they also are extremely flammable. So great for camping or backpacking or anything because they're a really good fire starter.
I love Doritos. I love them until I see it's like $8 a freaking bag. I'm like, I don't need Doritos. They're not good for me and they're expensive. But Michael and Chris says something about it also. You know, I'm hoping that they've learned the frugality where they shop for value. Doesn't mean be cheap. The Falcons will spend. Arthur Blank will spend. They'll maximize their money, but I still want them to get value. Get value. Give me 20 guys at $5 million instead of 2 at 50.
Yeah.
You know, and really beef up. So that's my hope. We haven't seen it yet, y'all, but that's my hope for this team, that you still go out and get amazing value for your dollar. You're just shopping on a higher tier now. You're shopping for better players instead of off the Chicago Bears practice squad and waiver wire list.
Yep. Yeah, it's I've always been a fan of paying a little bit more to have more flexibility afterwards. Just whether it be guarantees on the front end or a little slightly higher cap hit if you can, just so that way you're not hamstrung, 3 or 4 years down the line, and you are still paying for, a guard that was not very good for you. And also when you do that, it gives you flexibility in negotiating with that player to keep them around, change the contract a bit, et cetera, et cetera. So Kevin Fitzpatrick, always good to see Kevin coming in here saying, Scott, are you guaranteeing the under this week?
No, it's 44. They scored 71 combined last time. Things got weird. How did that game go? Let me see. Let me bring up the box score from it. It got weird in a hurry. It was 24 points at halftime, and then there were 34 points scored in the fourth quarter alone. So no, where I do like the under, for those of you betting at home, here's my tip of the week. I do like the under at 39 for Broncos Titans. I do like the under on that one. But I wouldn't touch the under. I might even go over on this one. For 44, considering it was 71 last time. The Falcons defense, AJ Terrell's still not going to be back. At least it doesn't look like he's going to be back. He hasn't practiced. He's missed 2 and he hasn't practiced. I don't think AJ Terrell's going to be back. There's an interesting one. Slappy Allen coming. He says he's Big Al from YouTube coming in with a big red Hulk, big red Georgia Hulk. But where do you think the game is? And then I think we'll probably get out of here.
I think it's going to be in Carolina, right? Charlotte? No, but no, I think sorry, had to get in the dad joke. Yeah, but okay. No,
You're not even a dad. Dad jokes abound, man.
I'm a pet dad. But yeah, no, absolutely. I think it's going to be a good game for the Falcons. I think it's going to be a get right game after that very disheartening and disappointing game against the Chargers that they, snatched defeat from the jaws of victory. So I think this is one they'll get after it. I'm hoping that Graham has a couple big plays here to, kind of right the ship a bit. And so he's feeling a little bit better about himself. But really, I think this comes down to Carolina's a better coach team right now with more belief, and Atlanta's a better coach team right now with more belief and more discipline. So I think that's what it's going to come down to. I mean, like I said, I think Steve Wilkes has done fine riding the ship there when Rule was becoming very obviously incompetent there pretty quickly. But still, it's an ugly situation there in Carolina. It might be better for Carolina to lose this game so they can move themselves up the draft board, even accelerate that process. But I think this is a Falcons win. I'm going to go Falcons win this one. Let's go 30-24.
That's way over. I was thinking 27-17, which is 44. So that was right on the number. No, I wouldn't touch the over on this one. My prediction has it right on that number. And I think the Falcons are still playing to win. And the Carolina Panthers are in the mode where they're going to be rewarded for losing. What's in it for me? I'm rewarded for winning. You're rewarded for losing. I'm going to go with the team that's got more incentive to win on top of everything else. It's just the way it is. So I like this team. I like the way that the team is playing. Like you said, belief, identity, and like they're in it to win. Where the Panthers are, like I said, they're running out the ground ball. So on that note, we will be back on Friday morning. And on Mile High Huddle, I will be on Thursday night during the game with Zach, and we may turn it into a little bit of a watch along. We'll see. I may connect these channels, and so we can see, we can watch some of the game together. I'll bounce that off of them. I don't know how many of the Broncos fans would care about me talking about the Atlanta Falcons. So we will see. But appreciate everybody for being here. You can catch Nick and I again tonight talking Broncos and Titans on Wednesday night on Mile High Huddle. Check us out on YouTube. So until then, we'll see you next time. Have a good day, everybody.